I think the show lost sight of themes in favor of lore. As you stated in your, as you talked about with the issues in Brian's books, much like Brian's books, I think this show doesn't have the conviction to say a whole lot of anything, and therefore kind of ends up being about nothing. Like it's empty calories that fail to nourish the mind and the soul,
Sure.
like a Frank Herbert story does. Frank's books, in fact, stand the test of time because they have things to say. Frank had strong convictions and beliefs and things to say, and he said them via his characters and plots and world building.
Yeah, like spicy takes.
These are exactly like these are things that we've talked about endlessly on this podcast. These themes around ecology, religion, politics, charismatic leaders, stagnation, the trap of foresight, all of these ideas are baked into the story and world of Frank Herbert's books. None of these themes that, in my opinion, make Dune Dune are present in this show in any meaningful way. There are some sort of half-hearted and shallow nods towards some of these ideas, maybe, but they aren't meaningfully explored or present in this show in any way. I will say, I think the one theme that is somewhat consistent across this season is the theme of fear.
Sure.
But as we sort of discussed earlier, even fear ends up being just this like MacGuffin plot device that explains a virus, that explains the origin of a lore litany. Oh, I'm sorry, fortune cookie that we see later
that's a good
in
word.
Frank books.
Fortune cookie? Yeah, fortune cookie. Great.
So it rather than being a theme that is explored and underpins and binds this series together, it primarily serves the lore instead.
Yeah, I was going to say, because even, like, there's no slam dunk on any of those themes. Like, even if I talk about women trying to carve out their agency within a male's political universe, or you talk about what is truth and lie and how do you trust and what does truth mean, that none of many of them are there, but they're not, like, they don't end up being the reason for anything. They're just kind of there,
wonderfully
present.
Yep.
And it's like, okay, I'm glad they're there. I am. But I feel like in the same way that Michaela's response to Desmond had an opportunity for a really poignant point about colonizers and oppressors and your people as Fremen and how do they relate to a sisterhood, the organization of the sisterhood. Example. What a great opportunity that we didn't capitalize on, that we didn't utilize.
Right. We didn't hit that slam dunk.
Right. And that would be a point where I'm fairly confident Frank Herbert would have delivered a 2-page slam dunk. Leto going,
just two?
I had another thought about that. Moneo, come here.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Wonderfully put, Leo. I couldn't agree more. I think the show ended up being, again, much like the Brian books. These are many criticisms that we've levied against Brian books, too. The show ended up being too preoccupied with the lore of it all, wanting to show us the origins of things like the Litany or a proto-Kwisatz Haderach, or maybe the Sardaukar, seeing a Gom Jabbar on screen, seeing the voice in action. Look, it's an Ixian. Look, it's a Mentat. Look, it's a Tleilaxu. A lot of that was happening in the show, rather than, say, exploring in any meaningful way the relationship between humanity and advanced technology.
Right.
It's
AI.
there.
What a great opportunity. Yeah.
Lots of opportunities to explore that here. We never actually slam dunk. We never get that ball in the net. Or the example you gave earlier was wonderful. How do women arrest agency in a deeply patriarchal and feudalistic society that arises after a horrifying war against machines? Natalia would have been the vessel for us to explore something like that. And yet we don't. Maybe we make some sort of like nod toward it, but it doesn't go anywhere. And it certainly isn't the motivation for any of the characters to do anything. So that was a big issue for me. I think one of the biggest sins this show committed. And I can give a counterexample of a show that absolutely fucking crushed this. I recently watched the excellent Mr. and Mrs. Smith on Amazon. It's a show starring Maya Erskine and Donald Glover. It came out at the start of 2024. That show, the plot, whatever, it's about a married couple who are super spies and live together and do missions together. None of that really fucking matters, because what the show is about is love and the messiness of romantic relationships and exploring all the highs and lows of what the reality is when you commit your life to someone. Every episode, all 8 of those episodes in that season, are underpinned with this through line, and the season as a whole is bound together by that idea, by that strong central theme. Dune Prophecy, in my opinion, utterly lacks that and suffers greatly for it.